real turning point for me was in high school. So two influential things for me was high school. That's when it really kind of, long story short, athlete, good athlete and stuff. Church is going to do an outreach thing, a ski retreat, and asked me to give my testimony at it. And, the youth pastor just, hey, share what difference Christ makes in your life. And, I'd grown up in church, so I knew exactly what you're supposed to say, but it was kind of a little bit of a crisis of belief for me, because it's like, well, I know what I'm supposed to say, but it's not necessarily not really true. So I told him no. And the best part about it was he's like, okay, great. Why don't you get involved in this small group with us? And he really took me under his wing and kind of mentored me and helped me out. And that was a huge influence on me. And then I go to college and I realized, okay, I need this. Like, I need somebody else pouring into me. So I got involved with a group when I was in college, and same deal, had a guy that kind of discipled me. So the reason I share that is just because I've experienced how important, high school and college years are, how influential it can be, how moldable that we are at that age, because that's when my faith became real for me personally. And it took a couple people taking an interest in me and investing in me. So that's kind of what my passion is now, and why I coach baseball. I love baseball, and we could talk X's and O's and hitting and that stuff all night long. But the reason I do it is because I do want to influence the guys that I'm coaching, and they're at an age where we can really do that. So I know we're all in different situations just from a school standpoint and stuff, but just thought I'd share real brief kind of how we're trying to do that with our guys at DBU. And, maybe it'll resonate with somebody, give you an idea of something you can do with your team, and hopefully, just kind of spur some ideas from a personal level too. So we got a pretty unique situation. It's a Christian school, and not just a name only. It's pretty genuine. So we're open with guys when we recruit them about that, and tell them, hey, this is a big part of who we are, that, we want to develop you as a player, but also in your character and your faith. And not everybody on our team is a believer or has a faith background, but a good chunk of them do. And we kind of have like a baseball chapel once a week that the whole team's going to be a part of that. And we just dig into the Bible and, okay, what does this say about, how we're going to compete, who we are, what our perspective should be, and all that. So I just want to give a real quick overview of what that looks like for us. And I'll share with you I don't know if you can allow me to share my screen at all. I could show a couple things that just some stuff that we show our guys. Says it's disabled screen sharing. If we can't do it, it's not a problem at all. Okay.
Try it now.
Yep, I got it now.
Okay.
So this is, how do I get rid of this? This is kind of I'm not a huge fan of having like a theme verse or anything like that, but if we did have one, this would be it. Psalms 115:1, not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory because of your love and faithfulness. And to me, this verse kind of encompasses what I think are the two most important truths for us as believers. It's number one is the gospel. It's because of his love and his faithfulness. And number two is that we're living to glorify him and not ourselves. So I'll just kind of share a little bit about how I came to this, and just kind of how we try to communicate it to our team, and how I try to apply it myself as well. This is a picture of who I played for in college, Elliot Johnson. He's a LBCA Hall of Fame coach. A thing that really influenced me, he won the Fellowship of Christian Athletes Character and Coaching Award. And we're at the LBCA convention. He's accepting the award, and he gets up and, just, hey, thank you. This is a huge honor. But if all I've done is given my players character apart from Christ, I've done them a disservice, because I've taken them further away from them seeing their need for a savior. And I'll never forget that, because I think a lot of what we do as coaches is, or what we want to be careful of, and I learned from him is, we can do all these things to improve the character of our players, but if we're doing it apart from the gospel, apart from Christ, then, like his words, we're doing them a disservice, because they just think, in Jesus's terms, we're making whitewashed tombs. So that's where we always start at, is with the gospel, like, truly explaining what it is. It's the good news that God's holy, we're sinful, and there's a separation there, and that Jesus came and died on my behalf. He paid the penalty for my sins so I can have a relationship with him. And then we go on just to say that, that's huge. That changes everything. And that's kind of a saying we have, is that the gospel changes everything. This verse here, he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them. And again, this is kind of one of the exact same presentations we show to our team at the beginning of the year, that's going to impact, because of the gospel. That changes how we compete. It changes our goals. It now means that we want to glorify him and not ourselves. And that's that Psalms 115:1. Everyone who's called by my name. So now that I'm a believer, I'm called by his name. I'm a child of his, that I'm created for his glory. Here's an example I give the guys. So I said it earlier, I've got 5 boys at home, from 6 to 17. And so we see some crazy stuff all the time. I come home one day and here's my one son. He's jumping on a trampoline with his rollerblades on. And, he's thinking that's going to be really fun. And it was fun for a second, but, it didn't work real well, because that's not what either one of those things were created for. And, I think it's really important that we think about that. Like, what did God create us for? He created us to glorify him. And if we live for anything other than that, it might be fun for a couple minutes, like it was for Titus there at the beginning. It was fun, but, he fell and it didn't work too well. And I think I've experienced that myself. I think we all have, that if we're doing baseball or coaching or any of those things for our own glory, like, yeah, it might work for a while, but in the long run, it's not going to work. So we look at that. Let's see if it'll go on. So what does it mean to glorify God? I think that's something that we hear all the time in Christian circles. Like, I just want to glorify God, and Christian athletes say it all the time. It's almost an impossible thing to define, but here's how we've simplified it on our team. We say glorifying God, you glorify him when you imitate him. So now the really cool thing is now we're just going to, the rest of the time when we have these baseball chapels, we always start with the gospel, and then, okay, we want to glorify God. What does that mean? We want to imitate him. So now the focus is on him. Who is God? What are his attributes? Jesus. And then how can we imitate him with the way we play? This was a kind of an eye-opening experience for me. This is my oldest son. He's 17 now. But when he was young, this was early on, he was going to go on a road trip with me, and I'm getting ready to go to the game and to get on the bus. And he comes into the closet and he's just kind of staring me down. It's like, well, that's a little weird. He leaves, he comes back, and he's wearing exactly what I'm wearing. Like, I got khaki pants on, he's got on khaki pants. Brown polo or blue polo shirt, he puts on a blue polo shirt. And it was kind of eye-opening for me. It's like, that's exactly what I think it means to glorify God, is that we intently look at who he is, and then we just try to go and be just like him. So here's just a couple. I'm going to share 2 examples of how we do that with our team. One is we start with, to me, when I think of God, the number one attribute I think of God is his holiness or his greatness. And here's a verse in Deuteronomy, talking about his greatness. His works are perfect. He does no wrong. So, I think as believers, like, and leading teams, if we want to glorify God, like, we should absolutely be pursuing excellence with what we're doing. But we're doing that because we want to reflect him. We see this all over the place. Great is the Lord, most worthy of praise. His greatness no one can fathom. So I think we should unashamedly, as believers, be pursuing excellence and greatness in order to glorify him. This is a quote that it really struck me. We lost our commitment to the highest levels of excellence because we have lost our awe of God. God is so glorious that it is impossible for you as his ambassador to have standards that are too high. So we do want that bar to be really high on our program, but everybody wants it to be high. But ours is going to be high because we want to glorify God. And I think this is interesting. You look at, again, everybody, they talk about how high their line is above the line, and Saban, and the reason he's so great is because there's no detail that's too small. But I think about for us as believers and leading our programs, there is no line higher than ours. When you think about, okay, what is our line? Whatever we do, work at it with all our heart for the Lord. And whatever we do it all for the glory of God. So for myself, for our players, like there is no higher standard than that. But it's not just, so that's a huge one, is we are absolutely pursuing excellence and humility. But to me, when I think of God, I think of his holiness. When I look at Jesus, the first thing I think of is his humility. And we've kind of defined that, okay, how do we imitate Jesus? His humility. We focus on others and not ourselves. And we took that from here, Philippians 2, 3, and 4. In humility, consider others better than yourselves, looking not only to our own interests, but also to the interests of others. And this is where I think it really starts to get real in baseball and athletics. Here's another one. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less, and helping our players truly buy into that and do that. So we look at the inverse. So humility is thinking of others. Pride is a focus on ourselves. So here's the one I think we often think about and we have to combat in baseball is, you're doing good, you're the greatest, is this superior form of pride. But I think this is a huge one in baseball too, is it's an inferior form of pride. So and the example I give the guys is, what's this guy kind of saying right now? He's saying, I'm the greatest. But if we look at this guy, what's he thinking right now? And his thought is probably something along the lines of, I'm terrible, I stink. But what did both of them start with? They both start with I. They're both a focus on themselves. And so in baseball, I think that's it. And this is what I think is so hard about baseball. It's just almost a teeter-totter. We go back and forth of either I'm awesome or I stink. And it just absolutely breeds pride. So this is a huge thing that we talk about and work on all the time in our program, is how can we be about others and not ourselves, so that we can glorify God by reflecting Jesus's humility for us and how he gave himself up for us. And again, this is where we just keep going back to the gospel. So if we're, thinking pretty high of ourselves, and this isn't just players, I know, myself as a coach too, it's, we struggle with this when we're on that win streak and you're making great calls and things are going well, but all of us have an inflated view of ourselves until we visit a place called Calvary. It's there at the foot of the cross that we shrink to our true size. And then, the inverse, when we're feeling really down, to know that he had to die for you humbles you. To know that he was glad to die for you affirms you infinitely. So that's just an example. And then we just keep going. We just look at, who God is, what Jesus was like, and okay, how do we imitate that? Because we feel like that's how we're glorifying him in our program. And this is an interesting thing when I'll try not to be too long here, but just one other story for you. So when I first became head coach, I kind of had this vision of, this is what I want to do, is I want to do this according to biblical principles, and I truly want to glorify God. And then, as I'm reading, I'm thinking about, okay, God, what are the things that, are the major things that we need to cover with our team? And I just keep getting hit with humility. And my honest thought was, well, I can't talk about that because, we're going to be no good then. I mean, our guys got to be confident. And I kind of had this little crisis of belief. It's like, no, you can't pick and choose from the Bible what you want. It's I got to go all in. If I feel like this is what God is saying in his word, that we're to be humble, then I'm going to teach that to our guys. And it was an eye-opening thing for me, because I realized that my view of humility was wrong. Humility is not, I'm no good and kind of thinking less of yourself. It's just that idea of being about others. And it actually takes supreme confidence to be humble. And so I've learned a lot through the years as we've been doing this with our team. And it's actually, I think it's been, we haven't done it for this reason, but I think it's a huge part of how we've had success as a program, is because we have pursued humility so hard. And this is a side benefit that I didn't know about, but I've seen it over and over again. These are two of the best players we've ever had in our program. The guy on the right is the all-time appearance leader. Guy on the left is now coaching in the Mariners minor league system. He's their Dominican coordinator. But, these two guys here, it's like, see if it'll go to the next one. They're two of the most humble players we've ever had. They were really good, but they were all about other people. And I put these pictures up because this is what they did all the time. They were always happy. And if you think about it, if I say, hey, who's somebody that you can think of that's humble, somebody that's all about other people, and I'm guessing they're going to be just like these two, like that they're truly joyful people. And that's been a benefit that I've seen in our program, and it's something that I have to really work on myself, is that, that my joy comes from reflecting and glorifying God. And, we put it to our team like this, like when we pursue excellence, it's satisfying. Like this is a guy hitting a home run in a regional. He set our single season home run record, our all-time home run record. Like that's really satisfying to accomplish things like that and to pursue excellence. But when humility is our goal, like that's when we see our guys experience true joy, because they're doing it with each other and for something bigger than themselves, and it's to glorify God and not themselves. So I don't know, I could go on and on, but that's just an example of just some things that I've been learning personally and then trying to share with our team, and how we're trying to apply, okay, what does it mean to be a believer, how the gospel impacts my life, and now what does it mean to glorify God, and just kind of giving them some practical ways of how we can do that, how we can talk about it. And those are just two examples, but there's a bunch more too. So, just thought I'd share, kind of pull back the curtain. This is some of the stuff that we're talking about on a weekly basis with our guys, and continuing to learn from them. And, but yeah, it's a journey, and feel pretty fortunate to be able to coach baseball and point people to Jesus in the process.
Coach, appreciate you sharing with us. And, it's definitely a journey for all of us. And, if you don't mind, I'll just on, any guys out there that, you have anything you'd like to, ask Coach as far as, going along those same lines, or any comments you'd like to make to him?
John, I got something real quick. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Coach.
Hey, Dan, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And it's good to see you again. I didn't know, obviously, that you were going to throw up those PowerPoint slides, but as a very young coach, I started my coaching career at LSU Shreveport, which is an NAIA school. And as we kind of built our program, we had the opportunity to play in the postseason a couple of times. And in one of our postseason appearances, we were at Oklahoma City University, and we played in a regional that involved Southern Nazarene University, when Elliott Johnson was the coach at Southern Nazarene. And I remember leaving that ball game. We played them in the first round. It was a 6-team regional. We played Southern Nazarene in the first round. And I remember leaving that ball game, not even thinking about baseball, but being so impressed by the way that his team carried himself, being impressed by the way he coached third base and led his team and spoke to umpires and so forth and so forth and so forth. And for us, we were, again, building our program, but at the time, just playing a baseball game. And then I got on the bus to go back to the hotel, and there was absolutely nothing baseball related to it. And I just kept thinking, wow, like what a great leader. What a great man that I just watched do that. And that was a really big turning point for me as a very young coach, to watch him do that. And that Denny Craybaugh at Oklahoma City, who's hosting the event, a Hall of Famer again, or whatever. But I remember as a very young coach leaving there and thinking some of the same thoughts. And I remember humility. I remember, so many of the things that you're saying for me. I got an opportunity because John asked me to present a couple of weeks ago to say some things, and there were turning points for me that I think kind of led me in a certain direction. And it's because of moments like that. But the fact that you show Elliot, and the fact that you show and say things like humility, all the different things that you spoke of, we're in this for different reasons. It's so much more impactful in a situation like this, whenever not only things are said that hit home, but things are said that allow you to also witness. And I just wanted to say, I mean, like, the fact that you say that that's an example, that's what no doubt about it. And it gives it instant credibility that a man like that in our profession can leave an impact on people far beyond the game. And then that's the example we are expected to follow. That's awesome, man. And I don't know if that hits home with anybody else, but the minute you flashed that picture to me, I thought, oh, wow. I very vividly remember leaving Oklahoma City University's ballpark in a postseason game against Southern Nazarene and thinking nothing baseball, but everything about I just witnessed great leadership. Thank you, John. Absolutely.
Thank you, Coach Burt. Appreciate you sharing. I was listening to a podcast this week. I think it was an LBCA podcast, but it was from the archives, and it was Sheetinger back when he was with the LBCA. He was interviewing some Team USA baseball coaches, but they were high school coaches, like I think Butch, is it Chaffin, something like that. He's a high school coach in Tennessee. Box, I think Chuck Box, I think in Mississippi. Anyway, there was about 4 of them. And one thing they were talking about, and you're talking about humility and competing against each other, that kind of thing. And he was talking about it's really hard for a lot of times, especially in high school, our 14, 15-year-old freshmen, all the way to our 18, 19-year-old seniors, to see me go to the other dugout and shake the guy's hand and hug that guy, even before a game or after a game, and just, have a great conversation with him, and, showing humility and that kind of thing. And, but that's the kind of leadership that we're expected to have amongst these kids. And that's what they need to learn, is that we can compete our tails off when that first pitch is thrown. And, we're going to, I want to compete and I want to beat whoever's over there. But when the game is done, also, that's another brother of mine, and I want to go over there and I'm gonna hug his neck, and hopefully I win. And if I don't win, then we're going to, work our tails off to get better. But, to show that kind of humility and that kind of love to each other, I think that's hard for some of us to do on a regular basis. But I think that's definitely the kind of leadership that we're called to act upon by Scripture. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Anything they'd like to ask Coach Heefner? All right. Well, guys, go ahead.
Some of those opposing coaches are a little easier to give a handshake and a hug to than others, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Guerrero's on here. I mean, it's hard to walk over to him and, after he's, sent me multiple text messages during the week telling him, how bad he's going to beat us. It's hard to, it's hard to love on him, Last week, when he logged on last week, Coach Gray and I have known each other since we were like 10 years old, by the way. So when I logged on last week to this Zoom call, he had a little scoreboard already made up of our 2021, game that said he, beat me like 17-1. So, it's just kind of stuff Gray.
We do know it's always hard for the losing coach to come over to the winning coach's dugout. So
yeah,
that probably is hard for you.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Yeah.
I hope he's not recording this one.
Absolutely. So, any of you guys, if there's nothing else for Coach Heefner, any of you guys have any prayer requests we can pray for you about, or?
Yeah, I've got one, John. I've got great genetics when it comes to teeth, and my dad, all of his teeth had to come out because of different reasons when he was 48 years old, and my brother was the same thing when he was 48 years old. And I'm about to turn 48 years old. And tomorrow morning, I'm actually, all my top teeth have to come out. It's going to be they got to put me under and cut a bunch of stuff out. And I've just been having all kind of problems. And so I'm probably going to get me a gold grill just for Mark Carroll, you know.
Yeah, dog.
There you go.
Gold grill just for Mark.
That's gonna look good. That's gonna look good.
You know, the procedure and everything tomorrow, but I've had problems in the past with pain medications, and you know, obviously I'm going to have to be on pain meds, and just really so that I won't be in too much pain too long, to where I can get off of that stuff and not have to take it very long.
Absolutely. What time's your procedure in the morning?
11 o'clock.
All right, we'll keep you in prayer.
I got one too, John. I just found out this morning that Coach Shake at Dutchtown, his dad did pass away. You know, he'd been sick, and we'd been shaking him, expected he wasn't going to make it very long, but he did pass away. So just remember Shake and his family, please, when y'all have your prayers.
Okay, will do. Anyone else out there got anything we can pray for? All right. Well, I'll lead us in prayer real quick, and we can go on about our evening with our families. So let's pray real quick, guys. God, we love you. Again, we thank you for everything that you do for us. We thank you again for first of all for your son, for the relationship that we have with him, God, and we thank you for his death, his burial, his resurrection. And God, we thank you for the game of baseball. That you know, those two things right there link us together, these guys together. That we can be a child of God, and we can be linked together by the great game of baseball, God. So we thank you for those two things, especially tonight, God. God, thank you for Coach Heefner and the man of God that he is, and the impact that he has on this program and his kids and at Dallas Baptist, God. And I thank you for his willingness to come on and just talk a little bit about his program and how they integrate your scripture and your word into their program, and how he just impacts those young men and to make them better, first of all, better Christians, second of all, men for you, and where they can be, when they leave there, they can be husbands and fathers. God, they can impact the world for you, God. So thank you for men like that is in this great game, God. God, we lift up right now. We lift up Coach Olin as he has a procedure tomorrow. God, we just ask that you be with him, be with the doctors, and as they do what they need to do with his teeth. And God, we also ask that you be with him as far as the pain medication goes. And God, you just limit the pain to where he doesn't really need a whole lot of that, God. And so, God, we just ask that you put your hand on him right now and give him peace and comfort that only you can provide, God. God, for Coach Shake and his family, God, thank you for the life that his dad had lived, God. Just allow them to feel your hand of comfort and understanding on them right now, God. So, God, I'm sure there's others out there that you know exactly what needs to be done. God, allow these to look to you for their understanding when we can't figure things out ourselves, God. So God, we thank you again for all that you do for us. Thank you for giving us the technology available that we can come together from hundreds of miles apart, and just to talk about your word for a few minutes, God. God, again, we love you, and just we ask that you bless these men and their families. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you taking some time out tonight and joining us for a few minutes. Coach Heefner, I've got a message for you from Tim O'Neill. I think you got a text message from him a couple of days ago. He said he couldn't join us tonight, but he said, make sure you know that, you know, he'd love to have you at our coaches convention in January. So,
Okay.
So I hope that you'll consider doing that. We have a good group of high school coaches down here, and it's always a really good time. And our convention is growing every year. So I hope that you will be able to join us in January. So.
Okay, great. Well, I'll take a look at it, and appreciate. It was great meeting you guys tonight.
Yep.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Really appreciate you taking your
Well,
time out to be
Joanne got
with
your new
us.
slogan. Chilling like
Thank
a
you,
villain
Coach.
with the gold tooth filling. Yeah. Get your shirt, dog.
Looking forward to seeing it next week, Coach Olean.
Yeah. Hey, on the grill, I'm going to get Mark Carroll. On the That's right.
Get it in all caps so they'll think that you got the text, you know. Some people around there text in all caps.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye.